So this service today is about my experience at Midwest Leadership School. It was at Luther College, which I learned is Diana Beck's college that she went to, so she's very proud of that. It's a beautiful college. A lot of old trees that are old and craggy and hanging towards the ground, and they mow around them. It's amazing. They don't cut them down, they mow around them. There were 44 adults attending from 10 different states: Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Kentucky, Michigan, and Indiana. So that is our region now. We were the youngest congregation in attendance. We were founded in 2003, and we were the youngest. And we were also one of the smallest congregations. We have about 60 to 70 members. There were a few that had smaller, like South Dakota and I think Duluth have around 20 people. You know, they're really getting going. And I did hear about one congregation, they had 30 and they had a rift. They had a conflict in their ideals and they split. So they were trying to support two congregations of 15 people. It's like, the congregation that was the oldest congregation was Iowa City, and that was founded in 1841. Wow. Does that blow your mind? Yeah. And then there were other congregations that were much larger than us. The biggest, I think, was about 3,000, and I think that was in Iowa, if I remember correctly. So that's a little bit about what Midwest Leadership School is about. This is all created and founded through the UUA, the National Organization for Unitarian Universalism. So this was my schedule. I know it's kind of blurry, but you can kind of just see how intense this is. So every morning we have worship at 8:30, and then we have a history class, we have 2 theory classes, we have a leadership discussion group, and then we have a credo group at the end of the day, which is a spiritual discussion group, and then we have usually another worship service at the end of the day. So this was our group. I am in the second row, like third in from the left there. So this is an example of the services. This was the first service that we shared together. We each said what we were going to bring for the week, and then we attached a ribbon to this very large dream catcher that was displayed. And then I had learned after the fact that I think this dream catcher is used every year, and they do a service similar to that.
For years.
Okay. And then there was also a youth school as well. I think we had about 30 youth, and they amazed me. I mean, they were accomplished at leading services. They led like a music round, and some of the teens had created that. They composed it over the week. I mean, they were just very involved in their churches. So that was really neat to work with such a vibrant group of youth. So first I'll start with the history lesson. I was kind of amazed when I learned, and it really sunk in, the history of UU and our Christian background, and actually what Unitarian and Universal mean. And I learned that how I explain it is wrong. So that was very interesting to me. So Unitarianism, the heart of that was in the 1550s. Faustus Socinius was one of the leaders that got this going. He started a group of Socinians. So when they meant Unitarian, they meant non-Trinity. So they believed in one God, but the God was a Christian God. This led to the Socinians were the most famous non-Trinitarian Christology and had many followers in Poland and Transylvania, which led to UU today. So this was the first group to reject the Trinity. God, Father, and Holy Spirit and God was one. But a week, before I went, if you would have asked me what Unitarianism is, it would have been the icon on the other side, which says many beliefs, one life. There's one God, which means we honor all of the other religions, that a Christian God has as much validity as Allah or Buddha, etc. But that's not what we were founded on, but that's kind of what I and a lot of people, how they describe Unitarianism today. And I had the same experience with Universalist. So Universalism was started in the 1530s by a physician, Michael Servetus. He was a humanist, and he was writing papers that were just totally scandalous about such things about like how blood circulates through the body. Like, whoa, yeah. He rejected the idea of predestination. So this is the thought that all events are willed by God, usually, in a reference to the fate of your soul. Instead, he believed in free will and universal salvation. And those beliefs that he had, Michael Servetus, led him to be executed by Calvin, which then eventually led to a new era of religious tolerance. So that was the big question we had, during those history classes. If he would not have been executed, it would have really have created that culture of fighting back on that and having religious tolerance, and we're not sure, So, but my modern interpretation with Universalism was very similar to Unitarian. This is an image that one of the churches I found has for their website, Praise Well with Others. So I thought Universalism was, that we're inclusive of all other religions and beliefs, that we have universal humanist values. And a lot of people say that's what Universalism is now. But it was very eye-opening to me to be like, oh, I don't really understand at all what we were based on. So I experienced a lot of lessons throughout the week. And this was my first lesson. I am fearless. It was neat to see, as the week went on, working with others, what gifts I brought and what challenges I had. And this was definitely a gift that I had. I chose to use a PowerPoint today. It's you gotta go with it. You gotta have some courage. So this was my gift, and I put it to good use at Midwest Leadership School. When we did our service theme that we were given was conflict resolution. I wanted to play my ukulele for everybody. Well, the most fitting song that would fit with that was Imagine, John Lennon's Imagine, which I can play not very well. But I played that. I played my little heart out in front of 50 strangers, and they just watched me struggle through. And it was really wonderful, because there was a point in the song where I just kind of paused, and everyone in the congregation that day, or everyone at the school, went, yoo-hoo. And I went back, you may say I'm a dreamer. And they kept doing it, and it was so wonderful. And they were just right there with me, watching me, do my darndest to play that. So it was really wonderful. And it also, at the end of the week, one of the things that we did for our leadership class that we had is the instructor walks in and he says, okay, you're going to plan a skit. You have 15 minutes. Here you go. You have an hour to plan it. And he left the room. So they all turned to me because they knew that I was outgoing. They didn't know I even had a background in theater. But working at St. Francis Home, getting up in front of people and leading and entertaining them comes very easy to me. I don't have a lot of real worry about it. So they turned to me for that, which was really kind of special. So that was one of the gifts I brought. Yeah, so that's me at the service. We told this wonderful children's story, The Day the Crayons Quit. I recommend you look it up. So I'm the orange crayon, and I'm arguing with the yellow crayon about how we're both the true color of the sun, and it was completely ridiculous and fun. But it was all about, appreciating each other's gifts. So it's at the library, The Day the Crayons Quit, and also The Day the Crayons Came Home. I would recommend it. And this is our service that we led. And this too, when they, each day in the morning and the afternoon was a service that was led by the people at the school. So there were 8 of us. We had 5 adults and 3 youth, and we had 24 hours to plan it. So it was really intense trying to work out different ideas, disagreeing ideas, etc. in such a short amount of time. So I had some buddies bring their ukuleles along, so that's me after a long day of Midwest Leadership School, and we're rocking on our ukuleles. And on the left is Catherine. She could play David Bowie's Under Pressure on the uke. It was phenomenal. Okay. This lesson blew my mind. I am not a fixer. This idea comes from Parker Palmer, The Circle of Trust Touchstones. And he stated the purpose of those. The touchstones, which is kind of, I am not a fixer, is one of 11 touchstones. And he said that they define how we relate to each other in a circle of trust, but they can be adapted to define how you work together in your organization, your community, or network with integrity and trust, inviting the best of us to show up and contribute. The touchstone reminds us, no fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. This is one of the hardest guidelines for those of us who like to help. I learned that many times. Leaders, ministers, boards, they're asked to just fix it. But for many of these things that come forth, there's not a fast and easy way to fix it. Instead, the leader is asked to just hold on to the question. Just hold the question. This is a good question, let's hold it. And then the whole congregation is invested in solving the problem. And we can say that about ourselves with like the challenges we've had with religious education. There's no easy fix. You know, what do we want to do? Where are we going? This is a process to kind of work through that. That amazed me because once I sunk that into my head, it's not my job to fix everything for you. It's my job to help us find resources and find the right people to work on projects, the right teams, and really hold that. It really alleviated a lot of anxiety I had about being board president. Okay, you know, I'm not the one, okay? We are the one, so that really helped me a lot. All right, this one. Conflict, okay. So we were put in this group, and it was very intense, and we were put through some challenges. And on Thursday they said, has anyone had their Midwest Leadership School meltdown yet? Yes, I have. I've had it. I had an amazing epiphany during the week about how I personally feel about conflict. So I had explained, like, during the course of the week, when we were given our worship service, which its theme was conflict and resolution, which was really, really fitting. Many of us in the group had very strong opinions about what to do. Oh, we should do this, we should do, no, we're not going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And so there's this disagreement amongst the group, and one person in the group said, I can't handle this, and actually physically left. She like walked away. And another member of the group was kind of just trying to translate and trying to work through that conflict, and it made me feel physically ill. Just that whole situation made me feel physically ill. And then we met again with the group, and those that had disagreement were able to talk through it, and they said, well, great, let's move forward from this. We've resolved this conflict. And here's Audrey. I'm still feeling physically ill. Like for 2 days, I was ill. And I didn't know why. Well, it helped like being away from television and stuff like that, and I was able to actually process what it was about. And I guess I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but of course it goes back to how we were raised. You know, how our family dealt with conflict. And in my family, conflict is alive and well. And there's no end to it. And that gives me a lot of anxiety, and I didn't realize I had that. I thought, oh, I'm 45 years old, I've got this figured out, this is what my family's like, oh, no problem. I realized I don't have any models in my life for what conflict resolution looks like. I don't know when the conflict ends. Because everybody in the group said, oh, you're fine, it's great, da da da. Well, my family has been saying that for 50 years, and they're not fine, they're not great. So I didn't even like trust them when they said it was okay. It was like I didn't trust them, I felt betrayed. Anyway, so was really amazing to me, that I thought I had all worked it out. And a lot of you know that I went to school for art therapy. I was going to be a counselor, and I didn't pursue that, and I didn't know why. And now I know why. And it's just unbelievable to me, because now that I can acknowledge that, all these doors of opportunity are in front of me, that I could do these things that I couldn't do before, but I didn't know why. Phew. That was pretty amazing. So, also as part of dealing with this conflict, I talked through this with my new friends at Midwest Leadership School. And I used, I statements, and it made me uncomfortable when you said that, and da 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 da. And they really helped me work through the conflict. And a lot of them, they said, oh, I feel so bad that you're going through this. And I said, no, because I don't have the opportunity to do that with my family. If I wanted to work through this with my family, it would take like 2 years. But we're together for 1 week, and I can try this more direct communication. Try not to be conflict avoidant. Try to truly express what I'm feeling, and they're receptive to it, and we went back and forth like that, and it was just amazing to try that out. So, I continue to be brave and have some difficult conversations about my feelings and my concerns. So I found this next ostrich I liked. Avoidance is the best short-term strategy to escape conflict, and the best long-term strategy to ensure suffering. And I like that he pulled his head out of the sand. He's being brave. And I do think we can learn from this in this congregation, because, we're referred to as, the little church that could, and we're small and mighty, and we are really making a lot of growth in the right direction with, Jim coming on, and then we're going to be working on how we can sustain that financially, and some of the upcoming changes with Audrey, and some of the work the stewardship committee is doing with creating some goals for us. So we're doing very well, but when I hear about a church of 20, or no, it was 30 that split into 2, I'm like, oh, because a lot of us have seen disagreements that we've had in this community, and some of it hasn't been resolved. And some people have left our organization because of it. And that breaks my heart, So I really encourage us all to really try and have some difficult conversations, and try and support each other, because I think we are still a little fragile. I don't think we should take it for granted. And I'm trying to model that. I had a challenge with someone in the congregation, and we were just not meeting eye to eye. So I come to church the next Sunday. Well, where do I want to sit? Nowhere near that person, right? Audrey, get over it. Grow up. I sat down right next to that person. Was it comfortable? No. But it's helping me, relax, not personalize it, learn where that person is coming from, like the quote said in the morning, talk to people you don't normally talk to, and learn their story, and that's so important. And I think we are so invested in the church, and what this means for us, that I think we owe it to each other to really try to get our head out of the sand. But I know where this comes from. This is how we were raised. This is passive-aggressive German culture. I get it. But it's, I think a lot of it too is we really, if we can have those difficult conversations and have courage and work through it, we're walking the talk of who we say we are, really. So here's our covenant. I had to go back to it. But I really just pulled out a few of the things really about having that open, honest conversation, and about conflict, because I think now that we have Jim, you know, it's great for him to guide us in how we deal with conflict, but I think we need to work on that and create we talked about a conflict resolution team and really getting some support in that. So I'd like us to read this together, please. We covenant to be a spiritual community
where we can bring our hearts, minds, and deepest convictions, knowing that we will be respected, accepted, and loved. We covenant to have open, honest, and inclusive communication, understanding differences as a source of strength and energy. We will cherish, foster, and respect differences. We will express disagreement as an alternative perspective, not as conflict. We covenant to turn this disagreement in times of harmony and in times of conflict, to guide our words and actions as we create and nurture our beloved community.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Paisley, for your help writing that. Paisley and I and Howie's Aunt wrote the covenant. Judy, sorry.
Judy, Audrey, Howie.
Yes, very good. So this was my 4th lesson. I bought this little guy in Iowa, and I think he's hilarious. So he is a gnome riding a snail. So is the snail faster than him? Really? Like that's his chosen mode of transportation. So part of what we did at Midwest Leadership School was talking about dismantling white supremacy. And I learned that a sense of urgency is a Western construct, and that a lot of other cultures don't have that sense of urgency. So that's a construct that needs to be dismantled. Everything, we've heard this before, everything worth doing is worth doing well. As a leader, I'm a real action person. I really want to get going, really want to get started on it. But a dear friend of mine, Barb, I think, it was Barb or Antiel, told me there's wisdom in pontification. Must have been Anne. And that's something I need to respect and really try and embrace. When you're working on a project, it's good to have a diverse group. You've got some people that'll get going and go and do it, and then other people like to process things and take the time to make the decisions. And I think that is it. So before there, we have another hymn. So in the interest of time, I think I would like to wrap up the service, and then if anyone has any comments or questions about Midwest Leadership School, to catch me at coffee hour. I'm happy to report, I don't think it's official, but we've already received word of 2 people that would like to go next year. Christopher Shimshak, who would be a wonderful person to represent us, and Marge Weidinger wants to go. So that's very exciting. I would love for us to send a youth too. So we'll have to talk about that, but it was an amazing experience. Okay, so please join me and rise as you are able for the closing hymn.